Nina Rindt told her husband this car would kill him. He knew she was right. On September 5, 1970, Monza, Italy. He drove it anyway. That season, Jochen Rindt had 5 Formula One wins and a championship lead that looked unassailable. A promise to his wife that he would retire when it was done. This is not the story of how Rindt became the only posthumous world champion in history. That story has been told. This is the story of what it cost. The woman who timed every lap he ever drove, and the afternoon at Monza that made Nina Rindt the loneliest person in motorsport. Nina Lincoln was not a typical Formula One wife. She was the daughter of a Finnish racing driver. She had modeled in Paris, New York, and Milan. She had a career and an income entirely her own before she ever met Jochen. She didn't need Jochen Rindt, which is exactly why it mattered when she chose him. From the day they married, Nina brought an orange stopwatch to every circuit her husband raced at. She timed every lap. She also knew what Lotus was. At the end of 1968, when Colin Chapman made his offer, Nina told Jochen directly over dinner in Mexico City, "You're mad to drive for Lotus. You're much safer with Brabham." Bernie Ecclestone, his manager and the man entrusted with his daughter's future, sat Jochen down and said, "If you want to win the world championship, you've got more chance with Lotus than with Brabham. If you want to stay alive, you've got more chance with Brabham than with Lotus." Rindt agreed with both of them. But he had spent 6 years being faster than the cars he drove. In Formula 2, the press had started calling the entire category Formula Rindt. He regularly beat Stewart, Clark, and Hill in equal machinery. Lotus was the only team that could prove what he was capable of in Formula One. The risk was the price. For the 1969 season, he signed with Lotus. In May 1969, 16 months before his death, Rindt wrote a letter to Colin Chapman. His rear wing had just failed at the Spanish Grand Prix. Graham Hill had crashed at the same spot 11 laps earlier. The car was sent back out anyway. The letter said, "Honestly, your cars are so quick that we would still be competitive with a few extra pounds used to make the weakest parts stronger. I can only drive a car in which I have some confidence, and I feel the point of no confidence is quite near." Despite all of it, despite Nina, despite Bernie, despite his own letter, he stayed. And in October 1969, at Watkins Glen, he won his first Formula One race, his name finally on the result sheet. That winter, Rindt sat with the author Preuler in a Viennese tavern. "I want to be world champion next year, but racing will only be one chapter of my life. Once I become world champion, I want to retire. I don't intend to be burnt out by the time I'm 30. Nina didn't just take his word for it. If Jochen won the championship and kept driving, she would collect £10,000. He counter-wagered $20,000 that he would stop. He was that certain he would keep his word. Then 1970 began. The Lotus 72 arrived looking like nothing anyone had seen in Formula One. Colin Chapman had once again built something from the future. The night before Monaco, Rindt told Nina, "I'll just go and drive. I know I've got no chance of winning." "Don't be silly," she said. "You always have a chance." At Monaco, Rindt qualified 8th, nearly 2 seconds slower than Stewart. In the race, for the first 35 laps, he drove what he later called like a chauffeur, conserving and waiting. By the final laps, he was nearly 3 seconds faster than his qualifying time. Jack Brabham, who had led comfortably until the very last corner of the very last lap, locked up into the straw bales. Rindt swept past. That night, he walked across Casino Square at midnight, trophy swinging in his hand. He had wept when Prince Rainier presented it. He told almost nobody about the tears. 3 weeks after Monaco, on June 2nd, Bruce McLaren was dead. On June 21st, Piers Courage was dead at Zandvoort. In the same race, Rindt won. His closest friend in racing, gone. If you watched Charles Leclerc win at Spa in 2019, the day after Antoine Hubert died, You know how Jochen Rindt must have felt. Jochen cried for both of them. 2 men gone in less than a month. The championship was close, and he had a promise to keep. Then he won 4 more races in a row. There are 2 ways to respond to grief. Some people stop. Jochen Rindt drove faster. Going into Monza, he had 45 points. Jackie Ickx had 19. The championship was almost his. Then came September 5th. Saturday, practice at Monza. Nina was in the pit lane. Colin Chapman had decided the Lotus 72 would run without wings. No aerodynamic downforce, just the car and the engine at maximum revs on Monza's long straights. At those speeds, the car became unstable. Before his final session, Rindt stopped to speak to Pete Kerr, his old Formula 2 mechanic. Pete later said, "I was near to telling him to be careful. I couldn't quite bring myself to say it." Last words spoken in English, "I must go." He climbed into the car, left foot first, as he always did. He pulled onto the track. On his 5th practice lap, approaching the braking zone for the Parabolica corner at nearly 200 miles per hour, a front brake shaft fractured. The same fundamental fragility he had warned Chapman about in writing 16 months earlier. Without braking force on one side, the car veered and slid under the barrier. He'd never worn his crotch straps because he was afraid of being trapped in a burning car. He was thrown forward. The belt buckle severed his jugular vein. In the pits, everything went quiet. Nina noticed the silence. Jackie Stewart arrived at the pit lane. He told Nina that Jochen had only broken his foot. Nina looked at him. "But you're trembling, Jackie." "Because I've been running." Then a priest stepped out of the ambulance and put his arm around her shoulder. "Courage, Madame Rindt." Stewart walked back to his car, strapped in and put on his helmet. He described that moment later. "As I put on my helmet, the tears started rolling. When the engine came to life, I was aware of only one sensation. I tasted salt." Jochen Rindt was pronounced dead before the ambulance reached Milan. He was 28 years old. He had predicted his own fate in a letter to Chapman 16 months before Monza. Chapman's lawyers removed it from every English copy of his biography. It survived only in the German edition. He knew. He wrote it down. His boss buried it. Jochen Rindt still led the 1970 Formula 1 World Championship. 3 races remained. Jackie Ickx had 19 points. To take the title from a dead man, he needed to win all 3. He later said he didn't want to. At the 1970 United States Grand Prix at Watkins Glen, Emerson Fittipaldi won for Lotus. In the Lotus garage, there were no celebrations. Fittipaldi's win made it mathematically impossible for Ickx to close the gap. In the crowd, someone held up a small banner. Not waved, just held still. "Jochen lives." Ickx finished the season 5 points short. The championship had been decided. Jochen Rindt won the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship 74 days after he died. On the 18th of November 1970, the trophy for the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship was presented in a quiet room in London. No champagne, no podium, no Jochen. Nina accepted the trophy for her husband. Just a woman, and a championship her husband died to win. The bet was never settled. The £10,000 stayed uncollected. The $20,000 went with him. If this story meant something to you, subscribe to Grand Prix Untold. New story every week.